Yum, yum!
Greg here from Pixel Fondue and OTOY, out of nowhere, the makers of Octane, the excellent rendering program, have dropped a sculpting app on us, of all things. It's called Sculptron, and I just downloaded it, played with it for about an hour, so this is just a sort of a test video. I thought you guys would like to see what it can do, or at least what I could do with it on sort of short notice. And it's interesting. Now, they're very clear this is not a full-featured program. It's something it's in the very beginning, very early stages. They're putting it out there. But I think you could probably find some uses for it right off the bat. Certainly, you could see the potential of it because, in addition to sculpting, what it can do is actually manipulate point caches and work with animation in the form of MDD point caches. I'm guessing eventually they'll support Alembic or something like that, maybe even full-on USD. Who knows? But they can certainly deal with OBJ files and MDD point caches right now, which is really enough to do some kind of fun stuff. So let's take a look. And I'm just going to kind of goof around in here and bear with me as I'm sort of learning the program as well. So you can drag and drop different part of these floating palettes to different parts of the interface and dock them. So I could put my animation controls down here at the bottom like this. And let's say I could put my item stuff over here, kind of like in Modo, and maybe my tools over here. So this is sort of a friendly view. Now you notice this sort of cut off the animation palette on both sides. So if I pull it off and put it back down, it'll take over the bottom. So it's kind of a, the last guy to get docked gets the most space sort of thing. It has Maya navigation essentially, so Alt rotate, Alt left mouse, or Wacom tablet in my case. Will zoom in and out, and of course middle button will pan. And so if you're used to Maya, then that's what it's doing, which is sort of an industry standard at this point. Can also, I believe, F will fit it like that, again similar to Maya. So it works kind of like Maya in that way. You can pull up a couple more windows here. So in preferences, I've noticed you can actually change the matte cap to a couple of other ones here. So various matte caps are built in. I have no idea, how many, or there's no real browser. There's just a sort of, again, early software. So pick something you like to work in. I don't know. Maybe something skin looking like that. Looks good. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'll just go back to where I was. Oh, I like the big red one. That's cool. We'll go with this one. So anyway, you can do that. You can mess around with the background color. I can't turn off the grid or anything like that at this point. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that you'd sort of expect to be able to do that you can't do yet. For instance, I can't view wireframes on this model. There's no wireframe overlay. And I can't get rid of the grid, as far as I know. It's just stuck there. You can turn on symmetry, so I could turn on symmetry. I've got some basic sculpting tools here, and right mouse will adjust the width or radius of the brush, and so I can sculpt just like you would in ZBrush there. Maybe I'll find it different. Go back to my default, whoops, there's the noise editor I'll get to in a minute. Let me just go back to, I think it was like 32 or something. I don't know. What was there? So many of these. There, we'll just go that one. Looks good. Easier to see. Okay, so we can do that. Shift, of course, smooth, control, you can go in the middle. So very similar to ZBrush or Modo or any other sculpting app. It's done a good job with that. And there's just, the sort of basic tools here. Twirl, we've got a flatten, that kind of thing. And grab. The grab one, I think, is what's going to be interesting for animation, sort of manipulating vertices like this in a sort of a real-time morphing sort of way, and I'll show a little bit of what I've been doing with that in a second here. But you get the idea. It's got a clay brush. So would I use this for detailing out meshes? No, not yet. I mean, honestly, Modo has better sculpting tools. I'm sure Blender does. ZBrush, but you can kind of see what they're doing with this. With their trick is loading up MDD caches or saving out MDD caches and doing animations, which is kind of cool. So if I go, let's just go back to a, actually there's this kind of cool restore brush here, which will restore everything to its original shape. So I'll just restore my sphere here to the original shape. And I'll take a look at how the animation works using, we'll use the grab tool. So I think there's a keyframe set here already. So you see that little, let me just sort of see if I can push this up a little bit. You have a layer called default, and I've got a keyframe there. And so I can move forward to like frame 20, and I can sculpt. I can grab some pieces and pull them out like that, okay? And that's created another keyframe, and now if I drag, you'll see just real time, that's how it's going. So I can actually go back over here to 40. Now you can copy a keyframe by pressing Alt and dragging, so I'm copying that keyframe there, so there we go. Easy as that, and it plays real time, at least in some of these, not so heavy scenes. So, it's kind of cool, right? So you can do this stuff. And that's essentially how that works. Now I can do another layer, so I can create another layer on top of it, and I can rename that to, blah, blah, blah. And it's renamed. You can kind of see it right here. And then I should be able to, do some more adjustments on this layer. So I can go to push-pull, and I can maybe, let's go to frame 0, and let's create a keyframe right here. There's my key, so I'm just starting at, sort of a neutral position. Then I'm going to create a hole in it right here. And you can kind of see that happening on that second layer. And then I'll drag the clean one back to the end, and so there we go. So there's a couple layers going on here, right? Interesting. So, I can delete layers. I don't think I can fade them yet. Maybe I could mute one. Can I mute a layer? So if this layer is selected and I mute it, yeah, it goes away. So you can mute a layer, turns red. So you can kind of see where this is going, right? It's sort of interesting, kind of see where this is going. So, the question is, can we do useful things with this? Oh, by the way, also it'll be one of the other tricks it can do is you can sculpt up an object and then save out the sort of the object, the mesh, as an open VDB and bring that into Octane and render it. And the example they have is like rendering clouds. So there's a number of things you can do. So let me just let me do a new project here, and I'm going to import an MDD. Okay, import an OBJ. So import OBJ. I've got this head model I can use here. So bring this guy in, and it's sort of being hidden by the sphere there. So let's delete the sphere. Okay, F for fit. So my head scale is probably a little too small. So let's try actually just testing this. Let's try OBJ scale. Let's try to like 10 just for the fun of it, and see if that does a better job of importing the bigger head. Okay, it does. So that seems to work. I'm going to delete the old one and fit that in there. Okay, now we have a big head. Okay, so let's see how this works with a little bit, something a little more than a sphere, and see if we can do some facial expressions here and compare that to Modo. Okay, so I've got my base layer here for animation sculpting. And I'll just create a keyframe, and then I'm going to push up to say frame 30. We'll just do maybe frame 20, and let's see if we can make a frown. So we'll do grab and maybe symmetry on X. And here's where I think it would really be beneficial to see the mesh. And so at some point it'd be good to see a wireframe mesh on here, because I can't really tell if I'm really, crossing points like this, or if I'm really messing up the underlying topology. It's very hard to tell, but okay. So we're getting a bit of a frown there. We'll see. Looks okay. Very unhappy. Maybe sort of push the nose in a little bit. Crinkle the brow. Okay, looking good. And see if I can grab these eyelids a little bit. So here, it's getting a little bit tricky. You can see like I'm getting some crisscrossing vertices here. This fall off isn't super smooth. I can sort of shift smooth, but that's really going to kind of screw up my topology a little bit. But, we'll live with it for now. Looks good. Okay, so I got that. Just scrub. Take a look. Got a smile. Okay. And then we'll pull forward maybe to 35 and copy this over to go back to normal, and then we'll try a frowny face at 50, or a smiley face. I'll do a frowny face, smiley face at 50. Yeah, so something, okay, it's kind of working. Looks a little ridiculous, but yeah. So this sort of fine tuning, maybe a little whiter on the eyes. Yeah, and there's no way to mask or lock surfaces, vertices or parts of the model either. Again, very sort of rudimentary right now. So this may be this kind of stuff, and I'll recreate this in Modo in a second here. Maybe a little too much for this program at this point, because okay, this is working, but would you use this? Probably not, but it's working. So it's really encouraging, because it's actually, look how fast it is. It's actually really fast to zoom around. I can't subdivide the model. I can't view wireframes. I can't, At least I don't think I could subdivide the model. Any of these things, I can't do any of this stuff yet. But okay, fine. So there's a little bit of that. So let's compare that to Modo. So let me get rid of this Rhino here, and I've got my head. Let me just get rid of my preset browser. And so in Modo, you would do this a little bit differently. You would go here and you would create a couple of morph maps, like smile and maybe another one, frown. And then, you know, in Modo, you know, we have a bit of an advantage here because I can see, you know, the wireframe and get an idea of if I'm messing anything up. I can also do things like, you know, lock the eyes so I don't break them when I go over here. I'm in the, let's go to the smile one first. I'm in the smile one. And when I start, you know, manipulating this, you know, I'm not pushing the eyeballs in. I'm getting a better sort of idea if I'm crisscrossing any vertices or anything. And I think that just the sculpting, you know, fall off and smoothness is better. And a program like Modo, I'm sure Blender could probably do this as well. And you know, I'm sure even Maya could probably do this at this point. So, you know, maybe crinkle the eyes a little bit. So and then there's a few more tools. There's you know, there's like a fold tool or a tangent pinch. Some of these which will, you know, maybe help with the crinkling of the eyes a little bit. But so there's a little bit of, yeah, just a little more control in a program like Modo right now. And I could really get like a really big brush and it has such nice fall off that, you know, anyway. If I make a huge mistake and crisscross some vertices, I can see that and fix it. So it definitely gets a little more advantages in Modo here. And I'll just make this little smile and you know, push these out a little bit maybe. Should I do symmetry? Yeah. Okay. Looking good. Sort of everything kind of pulling back a little bit. So, you know, again, let's make a frown one. What I'm going to do here is export this as an MDD sequence and bring it into... It's a weird looking frown. Okay. Bring this into Sculptron and see if we can layer additional animation on top of this MDD sequence here. So looks sufficiently evil maybe? I don't know. Okay. Pushing the cheeks a little bit. Okay, looking pretty evil there. All right, so let's do a couple morph influences, and then we'll just do some animation on these guys. These two channels here. Whoops, the strength channels. And so we'll just go to 0 on both of these and press S to set a key. And then maybe we'll do a smile first, and then set a key there, and then we'll maybe have them both kind of smile goes down while frown comes up, and then we'll go back to 0 and everything there. So we got smile, frown, neutral. Okay, it looks good. So, you know, here's our face, and then here's our head, and then I'm going to export MDD out of here. So export MDD, and we'll just throw that on the desktop there. In Modo, it doesn't let you pick a file name for the MDD. It just uses the mesh name. That is fine. Let's go to Sculptron, and here's our head. Now, this is the same one, same topology, so I should be able to load an MDD onto here. So we've got all of this animation right here, but I think I'm just going to delete these keys. These go keyframe to keyframe. They do. So you can jump keys here with these transport controls. So delete that one. Whoops. Maybe I could just multi-select these two. Oh, I can. Okay. And I'll just delete all the keys, and then I'm going to File, Import MDD Cache, and I think it was this one here, Head MDD, open. And so we have some options here. Flip Z, I think, at least coming out of Modo, it's checked by default, and I think you do want it by default, so we'll import that. Oh, it brought my scale back down. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting because I imported the scale at a higher scale. So I guess the MDD always goes to a OBJ scale of 1 when you import it, unless it was on there I didn't notice. Anyway, so there's our animation. So imported it really quickly. Plays, real time there. Plays probably at least as fast as Modo, if not faster. And so that's looking good. So let's add something on top of this. So I'm going to do a new layer, and we'll rename it, I don't know, details or something. Sounds good. And then I'll just create an initial key and then pull forward during the smile. Let's, I don't know, horns come out when he smiles. How about that? Looks good. If we have enough vertices there to get horns, we'll give it a try. Okay, we got some horns when he smiles. Okay, looks good. Boom. And as the frowns, actually the horns should come when they frown. So I'm just going to drag that key to frown. Got horns. And then for smile, I'm going to copy, drag this clean key over here. And whoops. Just do 1, not 2. So delete this guy. And so for smiling, let's do, I don't know, instead of horns, let's just make his head sort of suck in like it's made of rubber or something. I don't know. Just a test. So this is going to be smile, alien head. Yeah, alien head. Smooth that out. Whoops, wow, the strength is way too high here. Where's my strength? Right here. Not so much. Okay, I really wish strength to be mapped to middle mouse button. It's so much easier to do that. Okay, is this symmetry? Okay, we should be good. Okay, that's a little bit of a little weird, but okay, that's our smile shape, and then frown got his horns. So smile, horns, and then yeah, back to normal. We can just copy this one and back to normal. So there we've layered on horns and some sort of weird head cave-in thing. And again, plays really quickly. Let's do one more layer, just see if we can add another one if it plays back in essentially real time here like this is. So let's go back and add a new layer. We'll call this, rename it. We'll call it detail 2 or details, detail 2. Okay, sounds good. And create a keyframe there. So I think, yeah, so sort of pull this up. This is where the interface is a little bit janky. Let me see if I can get this to dock and then pull it up. Okay, so where are we? Detail 2 down here. Can I drag these up and down? I don't know. I have no idea if we can move these layers up and down. I don't know that it matters because I think they're all additive anyway because you can't blend them. So is that a blend? What is interesting? Is this a blend? Oh, that's a blend. You can blend them. Okay, never mind. You can blend them. You can blend layers, people. I guess. Wonder if you can keyframe that blend. I don't know. Okay, well, let's go back down to one of these layers and just add a couple of new things, I guess. Let's just add like a giant chin, maybe. Yeah, okay. Why not? Oh, yeah, there. That's plenty evil. Very evil. Maybe at the height of the devil-looking one. Okay, and then coming down, I'm going to use the restore brush to get rid of the chin. And there we go. Okay, interesting. So still playing really quickly. You can, yeah, so there's a lot you can do. All right, interesting. All right, that's good. Looking good. All right, let's try something else. New project. It also has all these noise brushes. So if I go window, noise editor, and then use brush texture, if I push pull, yeah. So you have all these cool noises as well, and there's a ton of them. Like there's just a ton. So in fact, if I maybe pull this out and oops, that's not what I wanted. Just hide the animation editor and sort of. I guess I could dock them side by side here. Okay, fine. That'll work. Squish those over. Anyway, there's a lot of different noises here. Of course, you can get cellular. Let me just go to the back here. And the bigger brush. So yeah, there's cellular, and there's just a lot you can do with this. You get a real-time preview as well, which is pretty sweet. And so there's a lot you can do with the noises. I assume this may be helpful in sculpting rocks or ground or something like that, or just scales. I'm sure this will be expanded a lot, but procedural noises I think are great sculpting brushes, and it's nice to see they're pretty well set off the bat there with procedural noises. Okay, so enough of this. Let's bring in, let's go back to Moto and try just one other thing here. I'm going to close this scene. I'm going to make a plane. I'm going to subdivide this plane a bunch of times because you can't subdivide in the program as far as I could tell. So I subdivided a ton, and I'm going to rotate it kind of like, oh, I have symmetry on. I'm going to rotate it like so, and then I'm going to, yeah, we'll do that. Can I do a bend? Maybe I'll do a bend. Let's do a bit of a bend here, kind of like this maybe. So it's sort of like that. So it's sort of a slopes like that. And then let's go to my asset browser and look for something like a rock. Do I have a rock? I have a rock. This is a good rock. We'll load that guy. Make him smaller. Move it up here. Kind of see where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to, what? I'm going to make this a static rigid body, and I'll make this an active rigid body, and get rid of my rocks there. And then I'm going to check out the simulation. I sort of fell through my plane. What's my collision detection here on my plane is what? Multi-hull. How about mesh? May take a while to calculate with all those vertices. Let's see. Okay, rolls down the hill and off the hill. Looks good. I like it. Okay, so let's do an MDD. So this boulder here. In Moto, you can grab both these guys and just, we'll call this boulder hero maybe. And we'll call this, slope. And I think I could select them both and whoops, select them both, right click and do export selected layers. And you can do, yeah, separate files, wait for an OBJ. So it should spit out both these guys into the desktop as separate OBJ files. And then I can spit out an MDD from this guy under animate and export MDD. Looks good. Okay, same thing. Desktop folder, unable to write MDD. That's interesting. Okay, animate, export, whoops, animate, export MDD. Looks good. Just do the desktop here and export complete. Okay, let's go over to Sculptron, see what we can get going on here. Let's get rid of this noise. Bring back my timeline at the bottom there, and let me squish this down a little bit. Where do I grab to squish it? Up here? Okay, fine. Very good. Okay. New project, and then I will import my slope OBJ. I'm going to delete my ball. I'm going to import another OBJ. That'll be my boulder hero, and there it is there. And let's rename these up here, I guess. Boulder and slope. So I don't really understand exactly how the importing works with the OBJs. I noticed that it sometimes splits up meshes depending on parts or materials into multiple meshes in Sculptron. Doesn't retain the names, obviously, since I had to rename those. So maybe there's some work that needs to be done there. But, let's see what we can do. So I have the boulder selected. I'm going to import that MDD cache. And right here, import. And let's see what happened. Oh, we're doing that scale thing again. Okay, let's let's start over. Let's actually, you know what? I'll delete my slope. Delete the slope. Yes. And go over here to preferences and put this back to 1. Sorry, I'm just wasting everybody's time here. Import my slope again. There it is. Fit. Okay, so it's kind of small on screen. I'm not sure what the unit scale here is. Honestly, I feel like Modo does much better with scale than something like Maya, where Maya just has the sort of Maya units and it starts in centimeters, or Modo, I don't know, I think Modo's better at this at scale, but anyway, this is what we're dealing with here, so maybe it's modeling off of Maya scale. And there's no way to scale these. There's no sort of transformation attributes for any of these items, right? There's no, scale, rotate, translate, and none of that's there. So we're just kind of stuck with whatever you bring in. But, okay, fine. So there's my boulder rolling off. So I've got my slope selected here. And we'll see if we can make a muddy divot for the boulder. So I guess I'm going to hit, let's do a create layer, and we'll rename the layer trail, and create a keyframe somewhere. Create key. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Am I touching yet? I'll step ahead. Am I gonna step ahead? Step ahead, which is my... Okay, that'll step ahead of frame. Oh, it's not. That may be the simulation. Okay, interesting. Let's just see if I can push in the ground there a little bit. I don't think my simulation is that accurate, or my model scales aren't right, because I'm not getting the boulder to touch. But we'll see if this works. Okay, fine. Yeah, it kind of works. You get the idea. Something's up with this, I don't know if that's in Modo. Yeah, that's a Modo thing. I probably need a better collision shape for that one. But that's okay. We will stick with it and just sort of take a peek here. So I can see that, if I had a better simulation and it was a little more accurate, I think that could work. And theoretically, I should be able to just manipulate this entire boulder down. Maybe if I make my grab brush big enough. I can just sort of push the whole thing. Nope. Cannot push the whole thing down. Well, okay. Interesting. It's interesting. I think, if they follow up and stick with this program and give us some things, like just some UI niceties like middle mouse maybe for... strength of sculpting, let us see wireframes, let us hide the grid, let us translate, rotate, scale these items that come in, some things like that. I think we can really start moving towards a usable program, because it's certainly pretty cool to be able to sculpt details, whether it's on a face or something like this, a simulation. Not quite Chronosculpt or some of those programs that were on from NewTek a while ago. I think it was from NewTek, Chronosculpt, that would let you, bring in an alembic and lock items in a simulation and things like that. It was a little more sophisticated, but this is on the right track. I mean, why not? Weird that it's coming from OTOY. And the other thing I did not try yet is the volumetrics. So I don't... And that just crashed it. So don't know what the volumetrics is going to do yet. Maybe for another video. But yeah, anyway, there's 20 minutes of Sculptron ending in a crash. And here's Modo again. So I don't know. Download it. Give it a shot. Looks interesting.
Yum, yum.